Okay, we're going to get started as it is noon and we've got a lot to cover. Welcome, everyone. If you could, please type into chat if you can see my screen. Um, we also had an issue with chat yesterday, so if you cannot type into chat, if you could go to the Q&A area, I just want to make sure everybody can see what we're doing before I get started. My name is Ann Driscoll. I am part of the SCORE Eastern Connecticut chapter of SCORE Mentors. I am both your speaker and your host today. So we've got a big group and we've got a lot to cover. So I'm going to get into it after I just spend a few minutes telling those of you who don't know about SCORE a little bit about us, and then we will get into our presentation. For those of you who don't know who we are, SCORE Mentors, we are a nonprofit. We're about 10,000 mentors across the United States, of which I am part of the Eastern Connecticut SCORE chapter, where we've got about 100 mentors available. All of our services in mentoring are free. Our webinars are 90% free or low cost. There are some on a regional basis, which are very, very specific topics that may be $10. But predominantly, all of our services are free. And our mission, the mission of volunteers like me who donate our time to help you, small business owners, our mission is to help you grow wherever you are in your business journey. If you're a startup, if you're just noodling around an idea, if you are an established company trying to get to the next level, we have mentors who can be matched with you to help you and guide you in your business journey. It's very easy to get matched up with a SCORE mentor where we spend an hour just talking about your business. You just go to score.org, which is the national website, and you enter in your zip code, you say match me by zip code, and you hit submit. And if you've got a specific question, you can put that in as well. You could say, I'd really like a mentor who understands QuickBooks. I'd really like a mentor who understands digital marketing. I'd really like a mentor who specializes in restaurants or in manufacturing product lines for food. We've got 10,000 volunteers. We're going to have a mentor somewhere who matches what your specific question is. So I would highly recommend doing it. It's free, so why not? It is free, as I mentioned, and that is thanks to the generosity of many of our community sponsors. Today, our webinar is being sponsored by Essex Savings Bank. So I encourage all of you, if you get a chance, to check out Essex Savings Bank and thank them for being a good community partner and helping SCORE to help you in your business journey. So logistics today. The webinar, we're only talking for an hour on LinkedIn. It's really intended as an overview and to act as a complement to our mentoring sessions. So in the webinars, we try to hit on some of the main foundational points so that you can do a little bit of research, maybe move your business a little bit along, but we're not going to talk specifically about your business. In mentoring sessions, we'll spend an hour just talking about your business and really getting into the nitty-gritty. So today we're going to be talking about how to use LinkedIn to build confidence, connections, and your network. And it's the subtitle was building your sales network with LinkedIn and LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So we're going to go ahead and start. For those of you who are not familiar with who I am actually the co-chair of the Eastern Connecticut chapter. I have been on the workshop team for about 9 years, so I've done many of these webinars. But why am I actually speaking today? I actually come from a marketing, advertising, and online background over the past 30 years. I have my own digital studio, which is smaller than an agency, and we do everything. We do website design as well as marketing, of which LinkedIn is a part of that for many of our clients. So that's why I am actually the speaker today, though I am a SCORE mentor and the chapter chair as well. it's always hard in these webinars because we've got a big group of people and some are more foundational and some are really looking more for a deep dive into details to push them further along. So we actually are going to handle, over the next hour, we're going to talk about LinkedIn, some basic foundational information about LinkedIn for those of you who do not use it frequently and do not use it every single day. And then we will, in the second half, do a much deeper dive into one of the paid LinkedIn tools called LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which will really accelerate your networking and sales process for a number of you who are on here who are in sales business or service businesses. So again, because we've got a mixed bag, I always like to start at the foundations. For those of you who this is old news and you've done this before, just bear with us. I always like to make sure that everything is covered, and maybe there will be one or two things you haven't heard from. But basically, LinkedIn, as most of us know, it's very different than Facebook, very different than Instagram. It's really intended for professional or business networking and social media. There are individual pages, uh, uh, like for me and Driscoll, or for my company, Greatly Digital Studio. Um, and that is all free. That's what we call organic. So I don't need to pay anybody. I can go in and I can sign up for a personal page today by going to LinkedIn.com and following the prompts. That'll give me a personal page. And then if you go to this little grid, underneath the grid, you have the option to create a business page free. So I would recommend doing both of those things. Having a business page on LinkedIn is not as, or it hasn't in the past been as used as in other social media, but it is important for legitimacy to make your company look like it is an established and legitimate business. So I would recommend it's free. I would recommend signing up for a business page, and we will talk in a second about what you need to do with both of those from a free point of view. So that's free, your personal profile and setting up your business page. Connecting with people using this search bar is also free. You can type in anybody's name and try to find people you know, and then just connect, 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 and try to get them into your network. That doesn't cost a thing. Posting. If I wanted to post to everybody who is in my network, same as with Facebook or Instagram, that's all free. So that's a great way once you've connected with people to remain engaged with them. You don't want to just connect with people if you're using LinkedIn as a networking and sale part of your networking and sales process. You don't just want to connect with people and then leave it. You actually want to post quite a bit so that once people are connected with you, you have what's called a steady drumbeat and you're nurturing relationships. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. So that's all the free side. Then LinkedIn also has paid assets, just like Facebook does, Instagram, TikTok, Google, YouTube. All of these platforms have a free version, a free asset, or a free offering, and then a paid version where people can advertise. You can try to reach out to prospects who meet a certain criteria. We're going to talk about all of that. So that's the paid side. That's where we're going to do a deep dive. On the paid side, just like with organic, we had individual and business pages. On the paid side, there's a number of different ways that you can use paid LinkedIn ads or marketing solutions. Some of the tools, I'm sure those of you who go on to LinkedIn daily have seen offerings for premium, which is more for individual users and personal profiles. But there are also sales tools like Sales Navigator, which we're going to do a deeper dive in the second half into, as well as Recruiter. So a lot of, as you imagine, a lot of recruiters or people looking to hire use LinkedIn to find people who meet job descriptions and certain job criteria. Well, you can also use a paid version, which is just doing all of that work, but sweat equity work, but on steroids. It's a lot faster and more efficient, but it does cost money. Okay, so those are just some examples. Premium, I think, is 30, maybe $35 now for individuals to use. Sales Navigator, last time I checked, Sales Navigator was about 120. They bounce around between 80 and 120, but they do have a free trial that you can sign up for. But we'll go into that as well. So here, this is just an example when I talked about the grid. Here was create a company page down here, and then you just follow the prompts on how to create a company page. These are just some examples of how ads can be targeted to people on LinkedIn based on the criteria. So if you think about me, this is my inbox on LinkedIn. And you can see here, I've got an email that was sent to me that says sponsored. I also have an ad over here, clearly marked as an ad for Upwork. There's a number of other ads that I'll show you in the news feed in a second. But all of these people on the back end, the engine of LinkedIn, have looked at it and they've gone, okay, my business, I target people who own small digital agencies or web design agencies. I've never met Philip. I don't, Upwork I am familiar with, but they've all kind of targeted me based on certain criteria, and now they're serving up ads to me on LinkedIn. That is what you can do as well, thinking about your target market. We're going to talk about that. These are more ad samples. Oh, I got a little problem over here. But these are more examples of um, targeting people. So this is my news feed on LinkedIn. This is when I log in every day, similar to Facebook or anything else. You come into your dashboard and your news feed, and in this center spot, I get updates from anybody who I'm following. So I follow Simon Sinek and Brene Brown and a number of others. So I get updates from their business pages, as well as updates from personal networking friends who have put a post in. It's very similar to Facebook and other social media. So here I've got in my news feed someone who I actively went to follow, but I also have in my news feed this company called Notion, who I've never heard of. And then you see how it says promoted, and it's got, a information, and right here is a strong call to action with sign up. So like with Facebook, for those of you who have not done Facebook ads or Instagram ads or YouTube or Google ads, it's in my news feed in the middle of people who I am following, who I'm connected with, who are professional, personal friends. So I'm scrolling through all of that and I see this. So it's really, really effective advertising to insert in there because people generally see the name and the offer before they see the little promoted. So those are just some examples. Here I've got another one in my news feed for Uncommon Logic. I'd never heard of them. They were up there. Strong call to action here was sign up or follow. I like the follow because it's very innocuous. It's super easy to just follow and then a steady drumbeat of finding out more about the company. So those are all options you've got for ads and then targeting people on the back end for LinkedIn. So the important thing before you start getting into ads or LinkedIn Sales Navigator, separate from the free stuff, when you start paying to target a group of people who may never have heard of you, you're not connected to them as a network. They're not a former colleague of yours. They're not in your industry. You're not already connected. You're just basically trying to push your information out in front of a group of people who may never have heard of you, but may be interested in what your service or your company has to offer. similar to that notion that we looked at. So in order to do that, first you need to know who your target market is. It's not enough to say anybody who's going to buy my project product. What's going to happen is you're going to burn through all of your budget in a couple of days, not targeting the cream of the crop of the people who would be interested in your message. LinkedIn is very expensive. It is far more expensive than Facebook, Google, YouTube on a day-to-day, on an individual basis for ads. If you think about it, it makes sense because typically, a business, um, a new business customer is going to be spending more than your smaller consumers. And LinkedIn is really for business advertising, but it is very expensive. So you want to set yourself up to succeed. And the way that you do that is to determine who your target market is first, so that your ads are very, very targeted and very, very cost efficient when you look at your budget. So, examples of that, it's not like Facebook where you demographically will choose somebody is newly married or age range 25 to 45 and they like cats. It's a little bit more targeted than that, obviously based on their profession. So ask yourself, typically the people who you're going after for your business, who you want as prospects or ideal customers, what would their job title be? Where's their geographic location? Is it in Connecticut or is it all of the United States? I would not, I would start where you were strongest first if you've already got a foothold in Connecticut, but it could be the entire United States. They also have, which we'll go into and we'll look at in a few minutes, the ability to separate your prospects based on the individual or if it is an account. And what do I mean by that? So the individual might be Anne Driscoll, who is a nurse in the Westerly area, or you could say, what I'm really interested in using these paid tools is targeting anybody who works for Yale New Haven Hospital, not just the one nurse called Ann Driscoll. So that's an account level. That would be basically find me anybody who works for this company, and LinkedIn Sales Navigator will give you the 50 people who are on LinkedIn who you then can start to determine who is the best person to prospect. We're gonna look at that in a few minutes. Prepping, besides knowing who your target market is, who you're actually going for, and what some of their criteria looks like, you want to have a LinkedIn profile, which we talked about, your free personal profile, and your business profile. It just makes you look that much more legitimate if you've got the business page. You need to have it set to public. I don't know if you can see that down here, but underneath your public profile settings for edit visibility. So it's all under the, if you go to me, there's a drop down that has settings, and then we're going to go to public profile settings and make sure that it's public so that when you reach out to people, you have a greater odds of connecting with them. So why am I going to spend so much time on LinkedIn Sales Navigator as opposed to ads? Ads are a little bit easier to maneuver on the back end to figure out how to target people. I think LinkedIn Sales Navigator is very, very robust and will really help if you are a service business and you are looking to add it to your sales process to get out to prospects. It's a really great tool, but it is not as intuitive to use, I don't think, unless somebody gives you a little bit of a little bit of guidelines, which is what we're doing today. So it's really for those who are looking to get to next level networking. If you've been doing networking maybe at a chamber of commerce, or maybe you've been doing it offline, or with your town's business associations. Um, this is just another tool to add into your toolbox uh, on how to network with people. It's going to give you advanced search filters to precisely target individuals with certain job titles or companies. It's going to give you tools to actually engage with them a little bit on LinkedIn, which we're going to talk about beforehand, so that you're almost priming the pump and reaching out and connecting with people. Let's say you're in Westerly, and I'm going to use LinkedIn to connect with everybody who I've met at some Chamber of Commerce events, or just businesses within the town, so that the next time I go to an event and I run into somebody from that business, I've already got a foundation. Or I can uniquely target them using a CRM, which we're going to talk a little bit about in the end as well. Uh, so all of that, LinkedIn is a part of it. It's not going to be your entire sales process, but it will. There are multiple ways to touch your or reach your prospects, and LinkedIn definitely helps to set the foundation. I can give you stories about clients who've, seen a 4x, 4 times increase in their sales by adding LinkedIn into their sales process. So as we said, I jumped ahead of myself. It's just a part of your sales networking or your sales process. If you meet somebody at a conference, you immediately connect with them on LinkedIn. Everybody's got their phones on them. You just have LinkedIn open and you say, "Oh, okay, what's your name?" And let me connect with you. It's free and organic. It's a great way to start to meet with people. Um, and whenever you meet a potential client at a Chamber of Commerce event, if it's not a conference, or you're, just meeting people at some other event, you just immediately say, "Oh, let me connect with you on LinkedIn and let's see if we can chat next week." It is a free way to get that foundation going. So this part is called the why, LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Consider LinkedIn Sales Navigator if you have the capacity for access to large volumes of prospects. So, when I did one search for a construction company, on certain criteria, we came up with 10,000 names. Well, that's too much. So, what we really did was we started to drill down more into geography and get more specific in exactly what we wanted from our target customers, and we got it down to 800 prospects in the Connecticut area, who are our strongest prospects. But you do have to have time to kind of whittle that down. And then once you identify those people, as I said, you've got to reach out to them and connect with them. But then it's not enough to just leave it there. You've got to post or reach out to them via email. So you want to make sure that you have time to nurture those relationships, especially if it's $120 a month. What I will say is bear in mind the size of your organic from your LinkedIn personal profile does help your sales navigator be that much more effective. And what I mean by that is if you are one of the 50% who responded to the poll who don't use LinkedIn that often and may not have a personal profile, you really want to use the free version to connect with anybody who you've worked with or anybody you know. LinkedIn is very good about suggesting names based on your school or your past work business. But you do want to connect first on that free version and try to get a nice group of people, because it helps it helps your LinkedIn Sales Navigator be that much more effective. You don't have to have it, but it does help. I will also say that for those of you who are not familiar with LinkedIn, the way that LinkedIn works is you kind of think about circles. Anybody who's connected with you, they're the strongest people. That's what's called your first party connection. But if I am connected with, let's say a former colleague of mine, and I'll just call her Jane Smith. Jane Smith and I are connected. We are first level connections on LinkedIn. Anyone who Jane is connected to, people I may never have met, she might have 500 connections, now becomes a second level connection for me. And anyone those 500 people are connected to becomes a third level connection. So you see how it exponentially, each new person you add, especially if you're adding somebody who has a lot of connections, each new person you add to your network helps expand the level of connections that you can get out to and you can search for. Um, so I would recommend trying to connect with people, especially people who have a lot of connections who are in your industry, on the free version before you're going to pay, because it's gonna make it that much more effective for you. We already talked about, the why on LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I think it's really great to have this account level search because you don't always know who who else works for a company that you're targeting and what their job title might be. So to just get it all listed in one area of LinkedIn Sales Navigator to say, I want everybody who works for Yale New Haven Hospital listed so that I can look through all of their titles and identify who I actually want to prospect to, I think is a really, really effective and efficient way to get in front of prospects, far more than you just trying to ask around and find out who's in there. It also offers LinkedIn Sales Navigator offers an organized way to track potential prospects and stay updated on target companies. So what that means is, let's say, a company is posting about hiring, a company is posted about somebody getting a promotion. Those all become notifications for you on LinkedIn Sales Navigator so that you then can reach out when a company is showing that they're in a growth mode or an individual. Let's say you were trying to target Jane Smith from Yale New Haven Hospital, the nurse, and all of a sudden you saw that she got a promotion, to a certain area. You'll get notified if you've added her to your prospecting, so that you can congratulate her, and that starts nurturing relationships. So my point on all of that is this might not be for everyone, but might be enough for you, for those of you who are just getting familiar with LinkedIn, to just start using the free tools to start searching for connections, to create your business page, start posting on a regular basis so that you're nurturing those relationships until you get familiar with LinkedIn and you have a nice network built on your personal or business page before you use one of the paid tools. The nice thing about the paid tools is they do have the option to sign up for them only monthly. So you can sign up for it on an annual basis and you'll get a discount if you pay for the entire year up front, or you can pay month to month. You pay a little bit more. But what I like about that is a number of people who I've worked with using LinkedIn Sales Navigator where they don't have the capacity to, or a sales team to really, really, um, uh, use the tool for an entire year or for the cost. So what we've done is we've signed up for 3 months. We'll go in and we try to connect with as many of our prospects as we can for 3 months. Then once we've connected with them all, then we're really in nurturing mode and we're trying to nurture them and work the rest of the sales process so that uh, we actually get further down the sales funnel, closer to a conversion to them becoming a customer without continuing just to log the costs on LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So it is more expensive, but it is a larger prospect tool. It is better organized and it can track people far more easily than, if you're still using an Excel sheet. But it is intended for larger volume. Uh, um, Core, it was $79, but Sales Navigator was $120. But as I said, um, I checked just, a couple of days ago and they had the free 1 month version up. So now might be a great time to sign up and just see if you like it. Okay, so I'm gonna spend just a second very quickly talking about the sales funnel for those of you who are not familiar with it. It may be redundant for the rest of you, but we'll go through this pretty quickly. Um, This is just a high level sales prospecting review that you kind of start at the top of the funnel with just building awareness with your ideal customer. Hopefully you've already got an idea that of what their job title is, what their geography is, maybe what their company is. So that's what we call, that's casting the net wide. That's at the top of the funnel. It's pretty big prospecting tool. Then, of those people who you reach out to try to make them aware of your business, not all of them are going to take your connection request. So let's say you only get a 20% uh, connection rate. We go out to 100 people, only 20 of them accept your connection. And then for the engaged connection, when you start posting, maybe only five of those people give you a thumbs up or respond to your emails, but it's still five warm prospects who then, the longer you nurture those relationships, you then can say, "Hey, I'm going to be in your area. I'd love to have a coffee and tell you a little bit about what we're doing." When you've nurtured the relationship, that's how you can move them off into a different part of your sales process. So LinkedIn Sales Navigator can you be used for either referral sources to try to get other people into your network who have complementary businesses and are not just direct clients. So, for an example, um, I'll talk about we we could say real estate agents connecting with um, construction, junk removal companies. Those are all potential referrals where you can refer clients back and forth. The clients aren't on LinkedIn, but the referral sources are. So you want to nurture those relationships as well. So after, as I mentioned, we've got the true prospects. We're going to start with that funnel. We're going to connect with people. We're going to try to uh, connect with them based on the criteria that they match if we target them directly on LinkedIn. So job title, geography, etc. Or I've got a number of clients who do this really, really well. When they go to a conference or something offline, or let's say they're part of a chamber of commerce, they get the list of names. And some conferences will give you a list of names and others won't. And some will give you it beforehand. Others won't give it to you until afterwards. But you've got a group of people who have attended a conference and you've got something to say to them. So you can, if you've got a conference list, you can connect with them and say, "Hey, I'm going to be at this conference. I'd love to talk with you." Or if you talk to them at the conference, you can then reach out to them afterwards and say, "Hey, it was great seeing you at the conference." Or if you've just got a list of people, you could say, um, "I see you went to this conference. I thought it was great. What did you think? I'd love to connect with you." So that's another way of creating connections and prospects. And then, as we mentioned, there are true referrals or client prospects that other people have given you. I've already talked a few times about accounts, so I won't talk about that. So then I've mentioned on the true prospects, how do you go from, this big casting a net wide where you say, I want everybody who has this job title in Connecticut and you get 10,000 responses. Well, you want to use what's called filtering, and I'll show you a picture of that in a couple of minutes. But filtering for job titles, job description, you can filter for if they are a second or third degree connection. And why that is important is if it is a second degree connection, remember I said Jane Smith and I are connected, so she's my first degree, but everyone she's connected to is what's called a second degree. If I identify, which happens a lot, let's say I've got 40 people in common with another prospect. I've got John Doe, who I'm trying to connect with, and I see he and I have 40 people in common. I'm going to reach out and connect with him and say, "Hey, John, I see we know a lot of people in common. I'd love to connect with you and tell you a little bit about what we do." You don't have to use all of the filters that we're going to look at. You want to get a feel for how you're narrowing down. So you don't want to be too broad, but you also don't want to be too narrow and miss out on people. So I've used the example of Yale New Haven Hospital quite a bit, but from an account point of view, when you're going out to prospects for an account, you could go for Berkshire Hathaway or Compass. You could be, let's say that you are a service for junk hauling or construction, and you want to connect with real estate agents in this area so that they can be a referral. Whenever somebody buys or sells something, a house, they can say, hey, for any construction needs, here's such and such a person. So you want to build those referral networks. So Berkshire Hathaway, you could search on Berkshire Hathaway or Compass to get a list of all those people. Or I could look specifically, not for the company, I could look for people with a job title of real estate agent or real estate broker. If I were looking for a hospital, I could look for people with health and human services. So the filters are pretty robust. Don't be so specific in the beginning that you get no results. Just pick two or three, which we've talked a little bit about. I haven't talked about head count. Um, uh, you'll see that when we get into the filters, but the reason why I put head count in there is, let's say that you get 1,000 responses. I want to identify everybody who is, and let's say for web design that I'm looking for architecture firms. Well, I want to make sure that they're not so big that with a head count that they probably have people on staff who already do this and they won't need my consulting or services. So imagine that's your company. But I also don't want people who are just starting out. Maybe they've only been in business 1 or 2 years, which is another filter we can use, and their head count is one, because it may be too soon for them to look for outsourced help. So that's why head count, you kind of want to look at all of the filters and think about which ones work for you. So when we build the lead list, we're kind of backing into a process that I'm going to talk about. We're going to build a lead list after you cast your net out to the prospects and you try to filter it down, and you don't want to get 10,000, but you don't want to only have five people. So we're going to try to work with the filters to get some sweet spot, 800 or so that I can work on over the next week. It's not a set it and forget it. You can always filter for more people later on, but I like to have manageable chunks. And then I look through the list of 800 who are left in my prospecting list and I weed out the junk. I actually literally look at every single person and I try to see if they apply. So, an example of that might be real estate agents that you're looking for people who do residential real estate, not commercial real estate. So, that's going to be very evident in their profile. So, you're going to weed out the junk. You're going to save the good ones to a list that you're going to go back to later. So we're going to talk about process. Process is very important, or this can be very overwhelming. I generally tell people do the prospecting on like a Monday, weed people out on like a Wednesday. So you're setting the filters on a Monday, you're going through the list on a Wednesday, and on a Friday is when the list of the people who really look good for you to target, that's when you're going to reach out to connect with them. So that I just find that works really well, breaking it down into manageable steps like that. So this is what it looks like when I am doing that. So I have set over here in LinkedIn Sales Navigator, I have set my filter, and in this one, I was looking for real estate agents in Connecticut. I probably could have put in industry. I could have put in years of experience, etc. But I came up with, see how it's 11,000 results? So that's a lot of people in Connecticut. So I probably could have narrowed it down by, uh, people who are second degree connections. That's here. Do you see how it says seven mutual connections? So these people are the ones who are the strongest. So of the 11,000, I'm probably going to go in and say, give me only those that are second level connection because those are the strongest people to start with so that I don't have 11,000. I want to say, you know what? Give me the easiest people first so that I can see who I've got a lot of mutual friends in common with. And then I do that on a Monday. I'm setting my filters. Then and I save my search. See where it says save search to get notified. Then on a Wednesday, I'm actually going to click here and I'll ignore the ones who are not applicable. Do you see how it says save to list? It's very, very light, but I'll save them to a list. Sometimes I call it, depending on the client, I'll call it the list by the date that I'm going to work it, or it's a very specific criteria that I was searching on. And then on Friday, I go into each one of these people and I look at them and I try to connect. And I have a little message that says, if I start with the second level connections, hey, we know a few people in common. I'd love to connect. And leave. I just leave it at that. I don't like having a sales pitch, a hard sell sales pitch up front when you're connecting with people because nobody likes to be hard. You think about your own consumer behavior. You don't like that. So it's better to have it soft and connect with them and then be posting on LinkedIn and reach out to them later, like a slow nurture. And we're going to talk about that process after you've connected. But this is all the prospecting phase. This is just identifying people to connect with. So here is the example. This is when I've saved it to a list. Here is my lead list. This one was for contractor connections in Connecticut. At the end of, whittling down that 800, I actually found, 26 that were super relevant, for what we were doing. It tells me where their geography was. If they have an account, if they've got a business, I might be able to click on this and then find more people to connect with from here. And then I can add notes. And this is what I like about it. This is where it's more robust than just using the free version because it's finding more people I never knew existed, true prospects, presenting me with them, allowing me to connect with them, and then I can track the notes. So it's like a mini CRM, which is customer relationship management light, uh, on LinkedIn, which I really like. And then I can track what my outreach activity was, and I can add them to another list or remove from lists. So it just helps with the organization. So here are some samples of network connections. This will be in the presentation, so you don't have to write it all down, but I use the example for referrals. I like LinkedIn not just to sell to people, your individual services. I like it as the friendly, hey, we both serve the same target market, but we're not competitors. So why don't we connect and help each other? Examples of that would be junk haulers connecting with real estate professionals or professional organizers, construction and remodeling people, physical therapists who might connect with doctors, wellness centers, massage therapists. Construction and remodeling people might connect with home inspectors, real estate agents, geography. You're all helping each other when you connect and say, "Hey, we serve the same target market, but we're not competitive, so let's connect and see what we can do to help each other." That's true networking. Samples, some more samples of network connections. For an HR service consultant, if any of you on now are an HR service business, you could look for people, individuals or referral sources based on job titles, geographies, second and third degree connections here. So you can see how I could look for my current company, a past company, job function, job title. I could look for somebody who's following my company page, or I could look for the individual accounts as we talked about. So then once you identify the people, you have to connect with them. So I identified everybody who was a second level connection, meaning we know a lot of people in common. You want to reach out to people and connect, and then you have the option to add a note. I always say add a note for the prospects, and it's not an ad. Don't treat social media like ads. I see it all the time on Facebook where people are posting things that sound like a print ad instead of something that you're sharing. You're talking to friends, you're connecting, you're trying to help each other. So don't make it too salesy. Just keep it short, sweet, try to connect with them and nurture relationships over time. You can personalize the message based on the profile insights. You could say, hey, congratulations on your new job promotion. I see we know a number of people in common. I'd love to connect. Something that shows you know a little bit about them, but be concise, be professional, and offer value, which is when I say, we know we serve the same target market, that somebody will immediately understand how connecting with you will benefit them. It's going to be different if it's a referral source, as I just mentioned. You're going to say, we know a few people in common versus we serve the same type of client and I'd love to connect, refer business to each other. That would be the example of, a physical therapist reaching out to a wellness center or a yoga studio. You want to build a relationship. When you're first dating, you don't want to come on too strong and talk about marriage on the first date. So you're nurturing relationships. You want to engage, you want to share, you want to post things, help each other, and then try to notice if you're going to be in town, meet them for coffee. If you're going to be at a conference, meet them at the conference. That's why I said LinkedIn Sales Navigator is not going to get you all the business in itself, but as a part of your sales process, it's very powerful for laying the groundwork. On LinkedIn Sales Navigator, once you've connected with people, you could invite them, say you're going to meet them at a conference or invite them you could provide a webinar. You could say, hey, let's set up a call or a coffee. But at least ask them to follow your business page. Say, hey, we post lots of stuff on our business page. I'd love for you to follow it. Building a relationship in your settings. You've got notification and alert preferences. Do you see here how all of these are toggled to on? That means when I log into LinkedIn Sales Navigator, I am going to get a notification from any of my prospects that a lead has accepted a request. A lead was mentioned in the news. They've started a position at a new company. All of this will give you a reason to reach out to them and say something. So I think it's better to have all the notifications on and then slowly turn them off for those that aren't relevant for your business. So as I've said, I think developing a process is really important and it doesn't have to follow the same process that I do. I just like the Monday, Wednesday, Friday grouping activities because it just makes everything very clear in my head and I can get a good rhythm going connect, 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 or, reaching out, adding people to a list on a Wednesday. So develop your process and what works for you. When you connect, you could send them a direct message on LinkedIn Mail saying, thanks for connecting. Hey, would you like to follow my business page? I post a lot of great information there. When you log into LinkedIn, you're now connected. They're going to be in your news feed. Don't just leave the connection. If they're posting something, like what they're posting, comment on it. If they post something about an article that they love, read the article and say, loved the article. That's nurturing relationships over time. All of those little things make a difference. Share your own post. Put something up on your page about your industry or about something that's happened to you personally and give people the opportunity to give you a thumbs up or comment on something that you're doing. And that's also creating and nurturing the relationship. And we've talked about invite them to an offline event after you've done this, after you've been connecting for a while. So the key is discipline. It can be overwhelming with LinkedIn Sales Navigator if you if you try to do all of it and you try to reach out to 10,000, potential prospects. So I think bucket it into activities, crawl before you walk, walk before you run, meaning keep it simple in the beginning until you have a comfortable process that works for you on how to reach out to your prospects, how to weed out the junk and add the good ones to a list, how to connect with those people. What is your connecting message going to be? What are you going to do after they connect? Are you going to email them and say, thanks for connecting? Then are you going to be posting, once a week so that you're nurturing a relationship? So set aside 15 minutes a week just to try this out and figure out the first 4 steps of this process until you get comfortable. The measurement KPIs, you're going to want to kind of track how effective your activities are, especially if you're going to pay for the LinkedIn Sales Navigator piece. You're going to want to know that you've been adding a lot of people and made it worth $120 a month, which is a lot for a small business. So I just recommend having a very, very simple monthly KPI Excel sheet where you just track how many people are accepting your connection requests, and if it seems worthwhile, then you can actually track, well, how many new sales have I gotten since I implemented this program? And that's going to tell you if you have a return on your investment for the $120 a month. If you are somebody who sells a $5,000 consulting package, if you sell one of those in the course of a year, it's paid for itself. So, if it's uh, um, a little bit under 1,500 a year for monthly for LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and you sell one $5,000 consulting package, all your activities in a year, that's a pretty good return on investment. Um, let's see, not including the time that it takes for you to put that in, but that's a pretty good investment. So that's just tracking what you've got to make sure that you are spending your time wisely. Best practices: do use a professional profile for your personal page. Review your list before reaching out. Don't make the mistake of reaching out to people who are not in this country. If you don't serve people who are not in this country, don't make the mistake of reaching out to people, who are not actually in any of the industries that you're interested in. Optimize your profile and outreach strategies. We talked about the process. Have a schedule to follow up regularly. Commit to it. 15 minutes. That's everybody's got 15 minutes in their schedule. Use templates. You're going to see those on LinkedIn. I can always tell a template when something sounds like it was written by AI or it's not a real person that wrote it. So just use those sparingly and try to personalize, meaning mention people we know in common or a conference we've both gone to. Don't spam with generic messages. Uh, don't treat it like an ad and don't be overly pushy. So in the last minute, all I'm going to talk about for CRM is the beauty of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. For those of you who are further along, you can connect it to HubSpot or any of your customer relationship management systems that you're using. So I use HubSpot and Pipedrive, but you can connect all of your prospects directly into HubSpot if you've got that level of both LinkedIn and HubSpot. And it just makes tracking all of the emails and all the phone calls and any meetings beyond LinkedIn. It makes it much easier to track all of that. So that's it. So we're at the hour. Your first step is done. That you've learned a little bit more about some of the paid versions, particularly LinkedIn Sales Navigator, that LinkedIn offers for businesses to increase their networking and make their sales process more effective. So just watch more webinars, do a little bit of research, define your target audience like we talked about. You can sign up for the LinkedIn Sales Navigator trial. It's free for a month, and I always put it in my calendar when I do those free trials, like 2 days ahead of it ending to turn it off. And that'll tell you if you're comfortable enough, in a month, if you try it out, if you're comfortable enough to have that $120 a month ongoing. But just start. just start, do it with the free trial, commit to 15 minutes a week, do a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and try it out.